Welcome to Vortex Garage. You know, I originally came out here thinking I was going to get a little bit of work done and maybe clean the shop up, which it really needed. And well, that pretty much just turned out into me being lazy, sitting down and perusing the Triumph Spitfire Haynes manual. So I figured since I was being this lazy, I'd at least grab the camera and give you all an update on some of the things we got going on here in the shop, because I don't think I'm going to be getting too much work done today, even though the shop really could use some cleaning. But at any rate, one of the big reasons I figured I'd grab the camera is we did clean the chassis of the Spitfire, and since we recently had a video put up where we kind of showed the progress we were making, I figured, you know what, let's give an update. We'll do a couple close-up views of that chassis now that it's cleaned up. It looks a lot better than it did. Of course, it's still old and whatnot, but a lot of that dirt and grime, we were able to kind of get off of that engine, transmission, chassis, rear end. So it's definitely something we want to check out. So other than that, I figured we'd just sort of talk about other projects we have going on, just to kind of give you a quick update. You know, again, I figured I'd kind of catch up on cleaning a little bit here since we tore apart the Spitfire. The very next day I did a little work on the 94 Camaro, which I haven't finished because I kind of got some other things that cropped up during the day that I had to go work on. But that's still here. I got the door panel pulled apart on the driver's side and replaced the power window motor there. I actually had pulled out the old one and originally thought I would rebuild it. Back in the day, I had an old Fox body Mustang, 1990, 5-speed, 5.0, great car. Had over 200,000 miles, pretty much original drivetrain. And that car, man, I kind of miss it. You know, it was a cool car, and it, I got to say, it held up well for what it went through in its life, I'm sure. But it was eventually sold to someone I know, and I think they sold it a couple years ago. So it's out there somewhere. At any rate, that had the same notorious problem. The Mustangs always had them too. They get very slow windows. And back in the day, I didn't want to buy motors for it because they were fairly expensive. So I took out the motor and basically rebuilt the motor. Like took it apart, cleaned the brushes, cleaned all the carbon buildup inside the magnet and the wound portion and reassembled it. And it was a pain. I remember having to rig up cable ties because the way the brushes were spring-loaded, you had to get them kind of compressed so you could slide the case over the motor assembly, and then after doing that, cut the cable tie and pull it out. So you'd have to use a nice real thin one. And I remember doing it saying, okay, the window doesn't work at all. I'm going to try to fix this motor, and if I can't, then I'll go buy one. And it actually worked perfectly after that, and it worked for probably a year and a half until I finally, you know, got rid of the car. So here with this Camaro that you know, sort of come our way, I've sort of been doing the same thing. Why buy a window motor if I can rebuild it? Fortunately, these things are very cheap. These window motors are cheap. I mean, you can get them, they're $40 at the parts store, but if you shop around and get, you know, the discount codes and whatnot, you can buy them locally for about $30. You can buy them online, cheap versions for even cheaper than that. And yeah, you get what you pay for, because that actually wasn't the original motor in that car. That one had been replaced at least once. I knew that because it didn't have any rivets anymore, and all I had to do was unscrew it and pull it out. So that's why I got as far as I did with the limited time. So anyway, make a long story short, I'll try to pull up some footage at some point and show you. I think we're going to do the passenger side one and try to rebuild it. I'll show you how those motors are put together. One of the big things I found when I tried to rebuild the original, or I guess the aftermarket one that was in it, is they aren't sealed, at least the aftermarket ones. So when I popped it open, it was obvious why it died. It corroded, water had gotten on the grease from the factory and just turned it to mud. The thing was a mess. And I cleaned it up and got it running, and it actually started working better. At the time, that window wouldn't even move. So I actually unfroze the gears and got everything working. But by then, the actual little motor that they have that drives it was worn out. And these ones, the way they're built, they're really hard to open up without damaging them. So it's like by the time you spend all the time and effort doing that, they're so cheap, and this was already an aftermarket one, just go out and buy one. So I picked one up, tossed it in, and it works great. So what I'm going to do on the passenger side is, now that I know how to take it apart, I'm going to try to take it apart a little faster, see if I can clean it up, put it in. The one on the passenger side works, it's just slow. So it's in a better condition than the one on the driver's side was. So I'll try to bring the cameras out and show you how they're put together. I know it's a big thing with you know, that 4th generation Camaro. But again, that's something we've got going. I'll show you that real quick when we walk over. I'll show you the door panel pulled apart and everything. But other than that, we've got to get some work done on the long tractor. I'll show you, I've got some hydraulic hoses that we had redone, and I've got to get those put on. I'm probably going to have some more of them redone, and I'm working on an adapter to rig up an aftermarket coolant temp sensor, because the old one was an electronic one. It's not working. I don't want to buy one. I'm just putting in a cheap gauge that I had lying around. So I just have to basically make an adapter to go from M18 threads to, I think it's 3/8 NPT that the mechanical temp gauge uses. So, and that's about it. So I'll show you the hose, I'll show you the Camaro, I'll show you the chassis for the Spitfire. And one more thing, I know in the Spitfire videos, we did have a comment, because Sharky was hanging out with us in the garage, and he got in a couple frames, which is pretty cool. So, Shark, come here, come here. He's laying down over there, he doesn't want to get up. Come here, come here. What's this? Come here. I'm gonna try to get him over here. Come on, buddy. So Sharky's a 13-year-old lab. He's going to be 13 next month. Come here. Come here. How you doing? Yeah, he thinks I got food. So, but he's a buddy, and he hangs out in the garage most of the time, but not all the time. If I'm really hitting stuff hard with a hammer or whatnot, making a lot of noise, or working with some, tools that make a lot of noise, I usually send him inside, because he's old and his ears are getting a little sensitive. So, but go ahead and sit. You're good. You want to sit? What do you want to do? You want to play ball? You got a ball? You want to get a ball? You gonna get a ball? Where's the ball? Get a ball. So, he's ready to play. But you ready to play? You ready? All right. Well, anyway, I'm just sitting here rambling on, so hopefully you don't mind that and don't mind the update. But tell you what, let me grab the other camera and I'll move this one over, and we'll show you a couple of things that we got going on, and that'll be it for today. And hopefully I'll have a little bit more time as things go on to pull the cameras out and give you some more updates and give you some cool tech videos. Oh, you like ear scratches. Good boy. All right, let's go. Let's go. Whoops. All right, so first things first, I'm going to grab this camera and we'll get some close-up shots of our rolling chassis from the Spitfire since we've cleaned it up. So, all right, just going to do some slow pans. Try not to make you dizzy like I normally do with this camera. But you can definitely see that we certainly cleaned a lot of road grime and dust and rust off of this thing. And one of the things that's probably most evident is you can really see one of the previous owners who painted a lot of the bits, whether it be red, yellow, or blue. You can definitely see that here. So first off, the brake line, oddly enough, I think on the Mark II that we had, and I can check this because I have them, there were at least some aftermarket brake lines that had a little bit of a blue coating to them, but not this. This has been painted. And of course we have the yellow coil spring and shock. We've got a blue outer tie rod, red inner tie rod, yellow sway bar end link, red sway bar, and of course the painted red caliper back there. So, but the nice thing is everything under there cleaned up really well and looks pretty nice, and this is going to work out for us and being a great platform to kind of look for. So basically, this chassis looks really nice and it's going to work well for us, but I'm pretty impressed with how it cleaned up. So, all right, moving on to the front, you can see more paint. Of course, the overflow bottle, the entire radiator was pretty much painted red. The cap here, the fan, I think even this pulley may have been painted red. It's a little hard to tell, but they certainly got a lot of stuff. Suspension on this side, same deal. Of course, this is blue. This fuel line's blue. The air cleaners behind it that I have in the box that were in the trunk, they were blue. A lot of the cabling up here was painted red. So, of course, the oil cap. Remember, the old distributor was red as well. So someone really had a good time with some of the spray paint stuff, kind of, back in the day. But at any rate, it's a great rolling chassis, and everything cleaned up. And the nice thing is you can really see that everything's pretty straight on it, and that's really what's important and looks nice. Everything's there, everything's straight. This is a good car. So now I haven't taken the bottom valance off yet. I'll take that off at some point. And the good news is this is a part that really gets rotted out, and it's not bad. It's fairly solid. So, you know, the only way to know for sure is to strip it down and see what you got to work with. But, you know, I'm happy that there's no gaping holes in it. And, you know, from what I can tell, you know, feeling the backside of it, it doesn't feel like there's filler. You can't hear it. It sounds like metal. So, you know, that's a good sign. So that's what I'm saying. This is a good car. Of course, we have our cooling efficiencies. And after you paint your radiator and cake it up with red paint, you got to make sure you add some cooling ducts in there so that you don't overheat. So the motor's all here. Of course, we know that that runs because we ran it, but cleaned up nice, which is good. And we'll probably take these panels off. That way, I'm sorry, there's my hand, these panels. And that way it'll be a little easier to see everything as we start building up the other rolling chassis. You know, this is a good motor. I've got a similar motor like this up on a stand, and I got the transmission we showed you in another Vortex Garage update. So we'll decide what are the best ones to use, and we'll use those and get them, rebuild them as we need to. All right, so as you can see, everything's nice and clean. Transmission looks to be in pretty good shape. You know, the mount underneath and the cross member there, everything really cleaned up nice. Of course, back here we've got a couple of the shims for the body. There were two up front as well. We've saved those and got them cataloged. I think somebody had left a comment about that. That was a great thing to mention. Of course, yeah, I admitted I cut the emergency brake line. It looked fairly rusty and nasty. It actually doesn't look so bad. It is kind of frayed here. I didn't do that piece there. I just cut the edge there. So I'll just have to pick another one of those up. So it's a casualty of it. No big deal. Just the rear end. The differential. Of course, you see the transverse leaf spring, and you can kind of see how that bolts into the assembly here and has a swing axle, and it uses these axles here with U-joints in them. Doesn't use like you'd see nowadays. It would be more like a CV or constant velocity joint. So, okay. There's the back frame of the chassis. There's the little muffler. And interestingly enough, if you look at the exhaust piping, it's the infinite flexitube, basically. You replace it and you go by one of these giant, 6-foot long sections of tube at probably Track Auto back in the day. And you just get under the car and bend it by hand as much as you need. The whole thing's basically bendable. And let's see, it's like that all the way to, step over, about midway. As you can see here, that's where you can see in there, that's where it pretty much starts. And then that section of pipe is original, or replacement, but a true replacement. There's another body shim there. There's some of our wires, more view of everything. So this is the hose that we bypass because there's still coolant in the motor for right now, just in case we want to start it for some fun reason. Maybe drive it around with no body. I'm not sure we'll do that, but why not? Okay, so I'm just kind of going around with the camera trying to give you some close-up views. All right, so that's kind of how it sits now and how it looks cleaned up. So definitely a lot better than when we first took the body off. And again, we'll continue to update you as we make more headway on this project. Real quick, I'll show you a couple other things. So real quick, just a couple other things. Of course, we got the door panel off on our Camaro here because we replaced that window motor. And I just haven't pieced everything back together yet. We basically had just had enough time to make sure it was working, slapped it back together. The interior in this car is pretty rough. It needs to be cleaned out, and we got to redo the headliner. So it's a mess. I wouldn't fret about it too much. That's how we got it, and we're going to improve it. So, but first step was making sure we got a good window motor in it. One of the problems we were having, the way the window would get, they get really slow, and they don't roll up all the way. That's the first thing that happens, and you can kind of see the previous owner had put a lot of silicone sealant here, which does not help. It doesn't. And essentially what the problem is this was leaking water. They put silicone sealant trying to fix it. Well, that's not fixing it. And the reason that it was leaking water is that the window wasn't going up all the way. The seals are actually in good shape. So we got most of the silicone off of the seals, put the new motor in, got it to go up all the way, and had it out in the rain, and it's tight, it's watertight. So solved that problem. So again, we're going to do the other side. Of course, we're going to put this back together, clean everything up, and I'll try to keep you updated as we go through and do some of the cleanup work on this interior, kind of do some before-after kind of stuff. And hopefully it'll look pretty nice. So the whole idea, I mean, you know, when we show you, we're just going to try to go through and replace some of the interior only when needed, and with used stuff or better stuff, or just trying to clean up what we have or do it ourselves. Because we don't want to dump a lot of money into putting a brand new interior in this, but we want to make it livable. We want to make it look nice. So we'll try to show you as we go through and do that. All right, so our last update, like I said, it's going to be a quick update today. Our last update is in here. And this is one of the old hydraulic hoses for our long tractor for the front boom, and a new one that was made. So basically we took off this old hose that was leaking, took it to a shop, and they used it to rebuild a new one. I had new fittings made as well, because really the issue I had was this T-fitting here actually was so rusty it blew out on the side. So the hose hadn't broken yet, but as you can see, it's so bad off it was about to. So we went ahead and had a new hose built. We're going to install that, and then eventually we're going to have to go through and probably have some of the other ones done. You can tell some of them had probably been replaced relatively recently, but some of them look to be either original or very old and dry rotted, so we're probably just going to have them done. But we got this to bolt on, and of course also do that mechanical mechanical temperature gauge, and we'll kind of show you that as we do it as well. Well, that's pretty much it for today's update. We'll keep it short, and hopefully this weekend I'll be out here doing some more stuff, have some time, and grab the cameras and give you maybe a better update on some things. And so hopefully you enjoyed the update, and we'll definitely keep you posted as we make headway on some of these projects. Have a good one.